When winter descended across Europe, it did not fall gently. It froze rivers solid, buried forests beneath white silence, and turned roads into lifeless sheets of ice. In those brutal months, mobility meant survival. The German Wehrmacht, hardened and experienced, often found itself marching on foot through waist-deep snow, boots stiff with frost and rifles freezing to numb hands. Meanwhile, across the same white battlefields, American troops increasingly relied on specialized winter vehicles, small tracked machines that skimmed over snow like mechanical sleds. The contrast was stark. On one side, exhausted infantry dragging artillery through drifts. On the other, engines humming, tracks gripping, supplies moving. Winter was not just weather, it was a weapon, and the army that adapted best would blunt its edge. From the forests of the Ardennes to the icy plains of Eastern Europe, the difference between walking and riding became the difference between delay and momentum. Technology did not replace courage, but it multiplied it. When Wehrmacht launched massive campaigns across Europe, its doctrine emphasized speed, surprise, and concentrated force. Blitzkrieg had worked brilliantly in Poland and France, but winter warfare required something different: preparation, insulation, and mobility in snow. German forces had winter experience from previous conflicts, yet logistical planning often underestimated how devastating prolonged cold could be. Horses pulled supply wagons, infantry marched long distances, vehicles designed for roads struggled in drifts. As temperatures plunged below freezing, engines failed, lubricants thickened, and metal cracked. Soldiers improvised, wrapping boots in cloth, scavenging for fuel, building fires from shattered structures. But improvisation could not replace specialized winter engineering. When operations stalled, it wasn't always enemy fire that halted advances. It was terrain and temperature. Snow swallowed wheels, and frozen ground resisted entrenchment. The Wehrmacht remained formidable, but winter steadily drained its strength. Across the Atlantic, American planners studied winter warfare carefully. Observers had watched conflicts in Finland and on the Eastern Front, and understood that snow demanded innovation. The United States Army invested in cold-weather clothing, insulated boots, white camouflage gear, and most importantly, tracked utility vehicles. Engineers recognized that wide tracks distributed weight over snow, preventing vehicles from sinking. Instead of forcing troops to march with heavy loads, machines could carry ammunition, food, radios, and wounded soldiers. This logistical advantage meant combat units could stay supplied even when roads disappeared under blizzards. Winter became an operational challenge rather than a crippling obstacle. American doctrine emphasized adaptability. If snow blocked wheels, then tracks would replace them. Preparation translated into mobility, and mobility translated into sustained combat power. One vehicle in particular symbolized this shift: the M29 Weasel. Originally conceived for operations in snow-covered terrain, the Weasel featured wide tracks and lightweight construction. It could traverse marshes, snowfields, and mud where trucks simply bogged down. Powered by a modest engine but engineered for traction, it became indispensable in winter campaigns. Soldiers nicknamed it affectionately, seeing it as both workhorse and lifesaver. Unlike heavy tanks, the Weasel was not designed to smash enemy lines. It was designed to keep armies moving when nature tried to stop them. It hauled artillery shells, evacuated casualties, and delivered rations to forward positions. Its impact lay not in firepower but in freedom of movement. For Wehrmacht infantry, movement in snow often meant slow, exhausting marches. Deep drifts forced soldiers into single-file paths. Frostbite thinned ranks. Artillery pieces required teams of men straining against ropes. Every kilometer consumed precious calories and morale. In contrast, American units using tracked carriers could move supplies forward without draining infantry strength. Troops arrived fresher, less frostbitten, and better equipped. The psychological effect mattered. Soldiers who knew resupply was coming were more resilient. Winter still punished everyone, but it punished some less severely. The difference between trudging and riding reshaped operational tempo. During the Battle of the Bulge, snow and freezing temperatures defined the battlefield. German forces launched a surprise offensive through the Ardennes forest, counting on weather to ground Allied aircraft. Yet, while initial advances shocked American lines, the cold did not paralyze U.S. logistics. Tracked vehicles carried ammunition through forest tracks and across icy clearings. Wounded soldiers were evacuated despite blocked roads. The winter that Germany hoped would shield its offensive instead became a grueling equalizer. Mobility remained contested, but not surrendered. Tracked vehicles worked because of physics. Snow compresses under weight. Narrow tires sink, while wide tracks distribute mass evenly. American engineers applied lessons learned from agricultural tractors and tank suspensions. By adapting civilian concepts for military needs, they created machines that thrived where wheels failed. The Wehrmacht had half-tracks and armored carriers, but many units still depended heavily on foot mobility. Winter magnified every weakness in supply chains. Engineering became strategy. Mobility alone was not enough. American winter uniforms. Layered wool, insulated parkas. Barized boots helped prevent frostbite. German soldiers, especially later in the war, often lacked sufficient winter gear. Cold injuries reduced combat strength without a shot fired. An army immobilized by frost was as vulnerable as one under artillery fire. Wars are not won solely by bullets. They are sustained by logistics. The ability to move food, fuel, and ammunition across snowbound terrain allowed American units to maintain pressure. Tracked carriers turned snowfields into supply corridors. Every successful resupply run strengthened frontline resistance. On the Eastern Front, winter ravaged German formations year after year. The vast distances of the Soviet Union, combined with extreme cold, exposed logistical fragility. Infantry marches grew longer as vehicles stalled. Supply shortages compounded freezing conditions. Snow became an ally to defenders. As the war progressed, Germany attempted improvements. Better winter clothing, increased production of tracked transports. But industrial strain limited effectiveness. The United States, with massive industrial capacity, could scale innovation quickly. Factories produced thousands of vehicles, ensuring widespread availability. There is a profound psychological difference between feeling abandoned in the snow and hearing an engine approach with supply.